Hello, it's me, and merry belated Crimbo. Today I am reviewing the latest game by Proxy Studios, of Warhammer Civilization fame, and now of post-apocalyptic sci-fi civilization fame. Zephon is a turn-based strategy 4X game, set in a post-apocalyptic Earth after a deadly war between an advanced eldritch alien invader and an ever-evolving AI intelligence, who turns people into human toaster hybrids, broke out and dumpstered humanity. You play as neither of these. You're actually what's left of humanity, whether that be an undying soldier to someone who got put in the human-robot transition chamber. Remember to take your oils, girlies. In total, there are 8 factions to choose from. The Emulated Mind, the previously mentioned robot transitioner. Fallen Soldier, a soldier who isn't falling and actually can't fall because he's undying, so the name is a lie, you liar. Fugitive Tribunal, a trio of whack jobs connected to an eldritch entity called the Voice. Heartless Artificer? I don't know, a scientist with no moral boundaries and an affinity for the cybernetic. The Honourable Aristocrat, a large but honestly pretty chill guy. The Practical Romantic, a beacon of hope for humanity and hope for a better future for all. The Rogue Operative, a cybernetic operative gone rogue for her own gain, and that gain being a giant military satellite used to drop the sun on anyone she doesn't like. And finally, the Untold Prophet, a cult to a single, unaging prophet, seemingly untouched by illness or even the need to eat. All of these factions follow 3 unique tech trees between them, each with their own playstyles, art, quests and lore, which is all implemented exceptionally well. Every tech tree is available to every faction, but each faction gets better bonuses for using their specific tech tree. And it changes your starting tech and starting units. So, you get a head start on your specific tech tree, but you can still get the good units and bonuses of the other factions as well, which I really like because it means playing a specific faction does give some bonuses, but the core units stay the same, stopping one faction from becoming too meta and keeping the factions viable without making them obsolete as well. It's very nice. Each technology and unit comes with a snippet of lore, teaching you more about the world or just how things are viewed within it. One of my favourites being the artillery gun's description, which basically just says no one likes them, because whenever they get annoyed by the frontline troops, they will just shell their freshly dug trenches and ruin them, which sounds like a court-martial waiting to happen, but I mean, they're probably going to do it after they deal with this. Regardless of the lore, even the units themselves look really cool, from the regular infantry squads to the endgame repurposed battleships. They're all given a cool AF description and look great. Couple this with the sheer amount of units for each tech tree, and you're going to be swimming in lore and feasting with your eyes. Speaking of feasting with your eyes, all the artwork for Zephon is exceptional, whether that be character portraits to flavour images for quests you encounter. All the artwork is exceptionally good and definitely worth looking at if you buy the digital art book, which I highly recommend because whoever the artist is for these pieces is an exceptionally talented individual. There is no meme, it's just good art. Please don't tell me it's AI. The game itself is exactly what you would expect from a 4X turn-based strategy game. You have your cities that generate resources, you research things and build units, and if you lose all your cities, you lose the game. It's simple enough to understand and get into. I've not played a Civ game since Warhammer Gladius, and that was the first one I played. And whilst the 2 games are similar, they are different enough to keep me engaged and wanting to play more. Every faction gets unique quests and a myriad of random events with different outcomes depending on your choices. This helps keep the game from getting too repetitive and keeps the interaction from you to the game world interesting, and gives you objectives to follow, rather than just having the gameplay boil down to ever pushing outwards expansion with your troops, discovering random outposts and neutrals to fight. It would get boring quick, and the quests and events help keep you on your toes and not just steamrolling the AI. Diplomacy, however, does feel a bit lackluster. Many factions will be automatically hostile with you, depending on the faction you chose, and it often becomes a chore to keep them friendly. Similarly, many factions are naturally friendly to other factions, so it can feel like you're being pigeonholed with what allies and enemies you get access to. Apart from the chiefess, she just seems to hate everyone. Now it does suffer a little bit from what I call the total war disease, which is just very repetitive turns of basically the same thing. Queue up a building, do some recruitment, do some fighting, move a unit, end the turn. Queue up a building, do some recruitment, move a unit, end the turn, etc, etc. It can get repetitive, but the voice acting and just gorgeous look of the game does help alleviate this. Similarly, There are enough environmental factors from all the different grids that your units can move into that does stave off the repetitiveness enough to not suffer too much from the Total War style turn-based repetitiveness. Similarly to Total War, or I guess unsimilarly, the game doesn't take days and days to finish. You can comfortably get a game done in a day, which is still long, but it's condensed down from what I'm used to. However, that doesn't mean it's not replayable. The myriad of different factions and the unlocking of different modifiers every time you complete a game means that there is plenty for you to discover and plenty more before you get bored. I doubt you will when the basic neutral enemies are storming up your capital walls. The combat is fairly simple in Zephon. Select a unit, select an enemy, do damage, maybe use an ability to do a bit more. However, there are so many enemies, and I only played on medium difficulty when I did my games. And it honestly felt like if I stopped building units, I was just handicapping myself. To the point I was basically always teetering on a low amount of resources, because I was paying the upkeep for all my massive amount of troops. That often all died anyway, because I was still massively outnumbered, and I just had to replace them because of the sheer girth and amount of enemies that just get thrown at you. And I don't mean the other player faction enemies, I mean the neutral hostile enemy. And even then, once I was powerful enough to deal with them, the player factions get added to the mix, and it just feels like I'm constantly teetering on the edge of not enough unit. This isn't really a criticism, but more of a warning. It's not a chill game. It keeps you on your toes, and it does it well, constantly applying pressure, but not so much that it feels unfair, however. Sadly, it is let down by a slightly buggy AI. I had it so I was at the end of the game, and the side I had chosen, no spoilers, was sort of just sitting in the corner of the map not doing anything, whilst my capital was under siege for multiple turns. But whenever I was about to break, it felt like the AI just left and stopped caring about me. Almost like it didn't want to destroy my capital and make me lose the game. However, I know this can't be the case because I had a second city, so it wouldn't have killed me, it just would have hurt. This did eventually sort itself out, but it was after multiple turns of me barely holding on and getting just very annoyed at the game's AI. However, this was the only AI bug I encountered, and it was right at the end of the game. It's a slight blemish on an otherwise pristine apple though. So, all in all, Zephon is an extremely enjoyable game. It's a feast for the eyes, and does just enough different to be an enjoyable gameplay experience, whilst keeping the repetitiveness that often plagues similar games at bay. It keeps you on your toes, just enough to keep you engaged and concentrated, but does suffer from a few minor problems that are minuscule enough for me to just gloss over. So, all said and done, I give Zephon 10 militants out of 3 Malachim destroyers. Good game.